So we have a view now for our application framework. If we go into the PS framework folder, we can see that all we have is an H1 tag for now. But we want to start styling this application and making it look good. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the app folder and create a CSS file. I'll call the style sheet app, and we do want to alter the body. Let's make the background color dark. I'll just make it dark gray. And another thing I want to do is use a standard sans serif font. Let's set the font family to Open Sans, and we'll go grab that in a minute. And we want to default to the system standard sans serif font. The reason I want to load in a font is so that we get the same experience, whether it be on a Mac or a PC or some other system. Normally a PC would use an Arial sans serif font, and a Mac would use Helvetica, but I like the look of Open Sans, and it'll look the same on any device, or at least it should. So let's go to Google Fonts and grab that. I'll go to google.com/fonts, and the Open Sans font came up first. So I'll click the Quick Use button right here, and we'll just take the normal 400 style, and I'll grab the code right here. I'll copy it. I'll go back to our index.html page, and we'll just add the font up on top. So here's the link we just added, and we're grabbing the Open Sans font from fonts.googleapis.com. Going back to the CSS file, let's just take a look at this in the browser and make sure that the body is being set up the way we need it to. Let me add the app.css file into index.html, and let's view it. So we can see that we have our dark background color, and it is reaching every corner of the browser window, so that's good. So let's get to work on the title bar. Now the title bar is going to be within the framework, and the framework itself is going to need a CSS file. Remember, this is going to be a reusable component, so if we used our app.css file, that would just cause a lot of trouble. We want it to have its own. So we'll add a style sheet, and we'll call it PS Framework. Now I'll get rid of the default body tag, and we'll come back to this style sheet as we build our view. Before I forget, let me just go to index.html and add in this style sheet. So looking at our view again, we can get rid of our H1 tag, and we can start building up the title bar. So let's add a div, and we'll give it a class of ps-title-bar. So this will be the title bar on top of the view. And we'll divide the title bar in half, a left side and a right side. On the left side, we'll create a div, and we'll give it a class of PS logo area. That'll contain the logo and the title on the left side. And on the right side, we'll also have a div, and we'll give it a class of PS right side controls. And these will be the controls that are in the upper right side, things like search or signed in user controls, or just miscellaneous buttons for the entire app. And let's work in the PS logo area section. We'll add an image. We'll give it a class of PS icon, and we'll give it an ng source, but I'll wait until I load the image to populate that. We also want the left side to have a title and a subtitle. And for now, I'll just hardcode values here. By the end of this module, we'll pass those through. We'll probably pass them into the isolate scope, and they'll stay there. But for now, I'll just enter some values. We might also want to style this div, so let's give that a class of PS title area. Now, we don't have any of these CSS classes yet, but we can still take a look at it. Okay, so we're getting our text, and it looks like it's in the right font, so that's good. Now let's go in and add the CSS styling. I'll go to psframework.css, and I'll just paste in the code I already created. So I pasted in some CSS. Let's take a quick look at it. Our PS title bar is the white strip on top. The background color is set to white. It's going to have a little bit of padding on the left and right, just to push things away from the edges a bit. And we'll put a 2-pixel solid black border on the bottom. And then the title area, we want that to show up next to the image or the icon down below. So if we make that inline block, that'll show it as inline, and it'll keep its block characteristic. And the icon is also inline block, and we want it to have a width and height of 50 pixels. We'll give it an 8-pixel margin, align it to the top, and we'll put a gray border around it. I'll scroll down, and there are 2 more selectors. One is for the title. We give it a dark color, and we set the top margin and the font size. Also for the subtitle, we'll set a font size of 13, and we need to adjust it a bit on the top so that it looks good below the title. So we're setting the margin top to -13. Let's see how this looks. So it looks good. We have our icon with the light gray border around it. We have our title in the Open Sans font, and our subtitle is there too. The only thing wrong that I see is the gap on the left and the right side. Let's fix that. If we go into our app.css file, we need to add a selector for our container fluid. Container fluid is the Bootstrap container that we're using to fill up the whole viewport, and we need to set the padding to 0 all around. And I'll refresh, and now it's looking good. It goes all the way to the edge on the left and the right. So in the next video, we'll work on getting some controls put on the right side. And if you're wondering where that image came from, when I pasted in the CSS, I also pasted in an image right here. I'm setting the source to images, kayak icon flat.ping. And later on in this module, we'll see how we'll need to use ngSource because we're going to be data binding to this value. Eventually, what we're going to want to do is have the consumer of PS Framework decide what the title should be, the subtitle, and also the icon. And if we look in the images folder, that hard-coded image is right here, kayak icon flat.ping.